Have you ever walked into a room full of people and felt like you just disappeared? Like you had something to say, something valuable, but no one seemed to notice? You're not alone. In today's fast-paced world, being smart is no longer just about how much you know. It's about how you show up, how others perceive you. And believe it or not, your intelligence often isn't judged by the facts you can recite or how quickly you can solve a problem, but by how you carry yourself, your presence, your tone, your timing. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who didn't say much, but instantly gave off the vibe of being sharp, thoughtful, maybe even a little mysterious? That wasn't luck. It was presence. It was intentional. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. See, most people believe that intelligence is purely about IQ or book smarts. But true intelligence, the kind that earns respect, inspires trust, and opens doors, shows up in the subtlest of ways. It's in how you listen, how you pause before you speak, how your eyes stay focused when someone's talking. These may seem small, but they're powerful signals. And the people who master them, they leave a lasting impression. So here's the question. What if you could learn to look smarter without having to memorize a single extra fact? What if just by shifting a few habits, quiet, simple, everyday habits, you could change the way others experience you? That's what this video is all about. We're going to explore 7 subtle but powerful habits that can instantly make you appear more intelligent. And let me be clear, this isn't about faking it or pretending to be someone you're not. It's not about trying to impress people with big words or complicated ideas. It's about showing up with clarity, with intention, and with calm confidence. These habits can make a difference whether you're heading into a job interview, joining a team meeting, networking at a social event, or simply having a deep, one-on-one conversation. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room to be the smartest. In fact, sometimes the quietest people say the most without saying much at all. So if you're ready to upgrade the way the world sees you without changing who you are, stick with me. Let's dive into the small shifts that can lead to a much bigger presence. Because the truth is, you already are smart enough. Now let's help the world see it. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly felt listened to? Not just heard, but actually seen, understood, and valued in a conversation. For most of us, those moments are rare. And that's exactly what makes listening one of the most powerful and underrated skills that intelligent people master. See, when we think of someone who's smart, we often imagine a fast talker, someone quick with answers, spitting out facts like a walking encyclopedia. But here's the truth. Most people miss. Truly intelligent people don't rush to speak. They learn to pause and listen. And I don't just mean the passive kind of listening where you're nodding politely while thinking of what you'll say next. I'm talking about active listening, the kind that transforms a conversation, earns trust, and signals real emotional intelligence. Because here's the thing. Emotional intelligence is just as vital, if not more than IQ, when it comes to how others perceive your smarts. And one of the fastest ways to show it, become a listener who's fully present. Let me paint the picture. You're at a meeting or maybe a casual dinner. One person's dominating the conversation, jumping in with opinions, barely letting others finish a thought. Then there's someone else, calm, patient, nodding thoughtfully, asking a few meaningful questions, and responding with insight. Who do you walk away respecting more? Most people would say the second person. Why? Because we instinctively admire people who make us feel heard. That's the subtle magic. of a good listener. It's not about spotlighting yourself, it's about illuminating others. Here's a practical truth. When you truly listen, you gain far more information than when you speak. You notice tone, word choice, even pauses. You hear not just what is said, but what's beneath it. And that kind of insight, it sets you apart. It gives you an edge both emotionally and intellectually. So how can you start mastering this habit? Let's break it down into 3 simple but powerful actions. 1. Be fully present. Put down the phone, close the laptop, make eye contact. These gestures may seem small, but they speak volumes. Presence shows respect, and respect earns connection. When someone feels you're truly there with them, they engage more openly, and that's when real communication begins. 2. Reflect before you react. Instead of jumping in with a response, take a breath. Nod. Use short, reflective phrases like, "That's an interesting point. I hadn't thought of it that way. Can you tell me more about that?" These create space for deeper dialogue and make you seem thoughtful, composed, and emotionally grounded. 3. Ask to understand. Not just to reply, curiosity is a superpower. When you ask genuine open-ended questions, you're signaling humility and a desire to learn. That's a rare and intelligent quality. Questions like, "What led you to that idea? How did that make you feel? What do you think the bigger picture is?" These deepen the conversation and position you as someone others want to keep talking to. "Now, I get it, listening" might sound passive, but don't be fooled. Listening is a skill of strength, not submission. It requires restraint, attention, and empathy. And when you combine those qualities, you naturally start radiating presence and thoughtfulness. People will begin to notice, even if they can't quite put their finger on why they feel drawn to you. In fact, some of the most respected leaders, mentors, and visionaries share one common trait. They make others feel heard. That's what builds trust. That's what earns influence. So the next time you find yourself in a conversation, whether it's a high-stakes meeting or a simple chat with a friend, challenge yourself to lean in. Listen not to fix, not to win, not to reply, but to understand. Because in a noisy world full of people trying to speak louder, the quiet power of listening stands out. And that's exactly what smart people do. They listen better than most. Let's be honest, have you ever listened to someone talk and found yourself zoning out, even though what they were saying should have been interesting? Chances are it wasn't the message that lost you, it was how they said it. Because here's the truth. In a world full of noise and distractions, clarity is power. And if you want to appear more intelligent, more trustworthy, and more impactful in conversations, mastering the ability to speak clearly and concisely is one of the fastest ways to do it. It's not about sounding fancy. It's not about using big words or talking more. It's about saying just enough with confidence, with purpose, and with structure. Let's break this down. One of the hallmarks of a sharp mind is verbal clarity. When someone speaks with direction, no rambling, no fluff, you instantly perceive them as someone who knows what they're talking about. Why? Because clear communication suggests that they've already organized their thoughts before they open their mouth. That's a sign of mental discipline. On the flip side, when you fill your sentences with filler words like or wander through tangents that never really land, you start to lose your audience, and with it, your perceived intelligence. This doesn't mean you need to sound like a scripted news anchor. Not at all. In fact, some of the most effective speakers have a very natural, even relaxed tone, but the key difference is they're intentional. Every word has weight. Every pause has purpose. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine two people giving a short pitch. The first person says, so basically, we're like working on this kind of platform thing, and it helps, like teams do better communication and stuff. Now, the second person says, we're building a platform that helps teams communicate more clearly and work more efficiently, especially in high-pressure environments. Same core message. But which person would you trust with your time, your business, or your money? It's obvious. This is why learning to speak clearly isn't just a nice skill to have, it's a professional and personal game changer. So how do you do it? Here are 3 powerful strategies to help you speak more clearly and concisely, starting today. 1. Slow down and think before you speak. One of the biggest reasons we ramble or rely on filler words is because we're thinking while we're talking. But if you just pause even for a second or two before responding, you give your brain a chance to organize your thoughts. And that moment of silence, it doesn't make you look unprepared. It makes you look thoughtful. 2. Eliminate filler words. We all use them. But once you become aware of them, you can train yourself to replace them with intentional pauses or breathing. Start by recording yourself, speaking even casually, and listen for the patterns. Awareness is half the battle. 3. Know your point. Before you start, before you open your mouth, ask yourself, what's the core idea I want to communicate? If you can't answer that in one sentence, you're not ready to explain it yet. When you know your point, you don't need to dress it up. You just deliver it with clarity. And here's something else to remember. Clarity builds respect. When people understand you quickly, they're more likely to trust you, remember you, and seek you out again. Think about the people you admire, whether it's a speaker, a manager, a mentor. Chances are they have this trait in common. They don't waste words. They make their message land in a way that feels effortless but powerful. If you're someone who struggles with over-explaining, rambling, or feeling like your message never quite lands, don't worry, this is a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned and improved with practice. Start small. Maybe the next time someone asks you what you do, challenge yourself to explain it in one clear sentence. Then expand if they ask. Or try telling a story without the fluff, just the heart of the message. Over time, you'll notice people start leaning in, listening more, asking questions, respecting your voice, because when you speak with clarity and intention, you not only sound smarter, you become someone worth listening to. Let's pause for a second and flip the script. What if I told you that one of the smartest things you can do is ask a question, not just any question, but the kind that makes someone stop, smile, and say, wow, no one's ever asked me that before. You see, in a world where everyone's trying to sound like they have the answers, asking thoughtful questions is a rare and powerful move. It doesn't just show that you're curious, it shows that you're engaged, emotionally aware, and secure enough to say, I don't know everything, but I want to understand more. And that is the mindset of someone truly intelligent. Here's the thing when you ask the right question. You're doing more than gathering information. You're opening doors. You're signaling that you're not here to dominate the conversation, you're here to deepen it. And people notice that. We often underestimate how attractive curiosity can be. But think about it. Who would you rather spend time with, someone who talks at you, or someone who genuinely wants to understand your perspective, your story, your thought process? Exactly. Great questions do more than move conversations forward. They build bridges. They say, I see you, I value your mind, and I'm listening. Now let's make this practical. What does a thoughtful question actually sound like? It's not, did you like the meeting? It's, what stood out to you most during the meeting and why it's not. So what do you do for a living? It's, what inspired you to get into that field? Has it changed how you see the world? Do you feel the difference? These kinds of questions invite people to reflect. They make the conversation feel less transactional and more meaningful. And when you can consistently do that, people will begin to associate your presence with depth, with substance, with intelligence. And here's the kicker: you don't need to be the expert in the room. You don't need to prove your worth by talking the most. Sometimes the smartest person in the room is the one asking the best questions. So how do you build this habit? Let me walk you through a few simple but powerful steps. 1. Lead with curiosity, not judgment. Instead of jumping in with your opinion, start by asking, why do you think that is, or what's your take on it? This shows humility, and humility is often mistaken for wisdom because it is. 2. Go beyond the surface. Anyone can ask yes, no questions, but thoughtful people go deeper. Try, what's something most people misunderstand about this? What do you wish more people would ask you? These questions aren't just clever, they're connective. 3. Listen fully, then build on their words. When someone gives you an answer, don't move on too quickly. Dig deeper, follow up. If someone says, it was a tough year, ask, what was the hardest part for you? What helped you get through it? That follow-up question is where the real magic happens. Now let's address something important. Some people hesitate to ask questions because they're afraid of looking uninformed. But let me reassure you, asking a thoughtful question doesn't make you look less intelligent, it makes you look more intelligent. Because it means you're engaged, it means you're thinking, and it means you care more about truth and understanding than about appearing smart. That's the kind of intelligence people remember. That's the kind of energy people trust. Let me leave you with this thought. In today's fast-talking, opinion-heavy world, asking a good question is like a breath of fresh air. It slows the moment down. It invites presence. And it quietly says, I'm here to connect, not just perform. So the next time you're in a conversation, whether with a friend, a colleague, or someone you've just met, don't rush to impress them with your answers. Instead, try to impress them with your curiosity. Because people may forget what you said. They may forget what you did. But they will never forget how you made them feel seen. And that all starts with a question. Before you say a single word, before your voice even enters the room, your body is already speaking for you. That's right. Your body language communicates intelligence, confidence, and credibility long before you ever open your mouth. Think about it. Have you ever seen someone walk into a room and instantly command attention without saying a thing? Maybe it was the way they carried themselves, shoulders back, head held high, eye contact steady. Something about them just said, I belong here. That's the power of confident body language. Now here's the twist. Most people think looking smart is about what you say, but how you carry yourself often matters even more, because our brains are wired to pick up on nonverbal cues, often in milliseconds. We instinctively make snap judgments about people's intelligence, trustworthiness, and presence based solely on posture, facial expressions, and movement. So if you want to look smarter, not in a show-off way, but in a grounded, magnetic way, your body language needs to reflect the clarity and calm you want others to feel. Let's break this down with a few key body language habits that instantly project intelligence and confidence. 1. Stand or sit tall. This might sound simple, but your posture speaks volumes. Slouching can come across as insecure, distracted, or unsure of yourself, even if you're brilliant. But standing or sitting with an open chest, straight spine, and grounded feet, that says, I know who I am. It also physically gives your lungs more room to breathe, meaning you'll literally speak with more strength. A great tip: imagine a string gently pulling the crown of your head upward. You'll naturally feel more poised and focused. 2. Steady, relaxed eye contact. Now let's talk about the eyes, because they are windows into your presence. Avoiding eye contact can make you seem nervous, distracted, or disengaged. But staring too intensely can feel aggressive. So what's the sweet spot? Think of eye contact as an invitation, not a challenge. Look people in the eye. When you're speaking, and especially when you're listening, it shows you're connected, confident, and paying attention. And when you glance away, do it naturally, not suddenly or repeatedly. The goal isn't to lock eyes, it's to stay present. 3. Eliminate fidgeting. We all have little nervous habits: tapping a pen, bouncing a foot, touching our face, checking our phone. But here's the deal. These subtle movements send loud messages. They tell others I'm anxious or I'm not fully here. If you want to appear composed and intellectually grounded, practice stillness. Rest your hands gently on a table in your lap, or use them intentionally while speaking to emphasize a point. Stillness shows self-control, and self-control always reads as intelligence. 4. Use open gestures. Have you ever noticed how great speakers use their hands? Not wildly, but meaningfully. Open palms, smooth movements, and gestures that match your message make you appear more authentic and clear. On the other hand, crossing your arms or hiding your hands sends a signal of defensiveness or uncertainty. When your body is open, you tell people, I have nothing to hide. I'm here fully. 5. Move with purpose. Whether you're walking into a room, taking a seat, or standing to speak, own your space. Don't rush. Don't shuffle. Don't shrink. Purposeful movement makes others feel that you are centered and aware. Even how you enter a room can set the tone. Walk in with intention. Make brief eye contact. Smile gently, then settle in. It's not about arrogance, it's about presence. Now I know what you might be thinking. What if I don't feel confident? Should I fake it? Here's the magic. You don't have to fake anything, but you can lead your mind with your body. In psychology, there's a concept called embodied cognition. The idea that your body and mind constantly send signals back and forth. So when you physically adopt a posture of confidence, your brain starts to believe it. Your emotions follow your posture, and that ripple effect changes how others respond to you. It's not about pretending, it's about practicing presence until it becomes second nature. So here's your challenge. The next time you're in a conversation, meeting, or even just walking into a room, Check in with your body. Are your shoulders lifted? Are you grounded? Are your eyes calm and open? Adjust gently and notice the difference not just in how people see you, but in how you feel. Because the truth is, confident body language isn't about performance. It's about alignment. When your words, tone, and posture all support each other, you create a powerful impression that speaks louder than any resume. And that is how intelligent people move through the world. Here's something we often forget in conversation. Silence can be just as powerful as speech. Think about the last time someone asked you a challenging question. Did you rush to answer it, just to avoid the awkward silence? Or did you take a breath, pause, and actually think before you spoke? In a world that prizes speed and instant reactions, taking a moment to pause can feel strange, even risky. But in truth, that pause, that's where your power lives. Today, we're diving into a subtle habit that most people overlook. Yet, it can instantly make you appear wiser, more grounded, and yes, more intelligent, pausing before you speak. Now, I know it doesn't sound flashy, but stay with me, because this small shift can transform how others perceive you and how you feel about yourself in high-stakes moments. Let's break it down. When you pause before answering a question or joining a conversation, you send a very clear message. I'm thinking, I value this moment. I care about my words. That single pause communicates so much without you needing to explain anything. It shows composure. It shows depth. It shows restraint. And in many ways, it shows that you're not just reacting, you're responding with purpose. That distinction between reacting and responding is key. Because when we react, we speak impulsively. We might blurt something out just to fill the silence or please the room. And often, those are the moments we look back on and say, ugh, I wish I'd thought before I said that. But when we pause, we create space for better thoughts, for wiser answers, for true connection. Here's the fascinating part. Research in communication and behavioral psychology shows that people who take even a 1 to 3 second pause before speaking are often perceived as more thoughtful, articulate, and intelligent. Why? Because silence gives weight to your words. It signals that what you're about to say actually matters. Let's look at a few real-life examples. Think of a political debate. Some candidates rush to speak, cutting each other off, trying to dominate the room. But occasionally, one person pauses, looks into the crowd, and responds slowly, deliberately. Who do you trust more? Or think about the best speakers, mentors, or leaders you've encountered. Do they ramble and interrupt? Or do they speak in a measured way with space between their ideas? The answer is clear. So how do you start building this habit in your own life? Let me offer you 3 simple but powerful ways to master the pause. 1. Take 1 breath before responding. This is your secret weapon. When someone asks you a question, especially a tough one, train yourself to take 1 full breath before answering. Not only does this calm your nervous system, it gives your mind a moment to organize your thoughts. That tiny moment of clarity can be the difference between a rushed answer and a refined one. 2. Replace ums with silence. Most of us are afraid of silence, so we fill the space with like or you know. But when you replace those fillers with a pause, you instantly sound more confident and in control. Try it. Your words will hit harder, and your message will land deeper. 3. Don't be afraid of the quiet. One of the biggest misconceptions is that silence launch weakness. In truth, silence can be a form of strength. When you pause, you give people time to absorb your words. You also give yourself the opportunity to choose what you say next. And that choice makes all the difference. Now let's be honest. Pausing can feel uncomfortable at first. If you're used to fast talking or people-pleasing silence, might feel like you're losing control. But that's exactly why it works. Because while others are rushing to speak, you're choosing to think. You're choosing to be mindful. And that pause becomes your power. Over time, people will begin to see you differently. They'll see you as someone who doesn't need to prove themselves by speaking first. Someone who brings calm to chaos. Someone whose words matter because they're spoken with care. So the next time you're in a conversation and you feel the urge to jump in right away, try this instead. Pause, breathe, then speak. It might feel small, but it's one of the most intelligent things you can do. Let me start with a truth that doesn't get said enough. Smart people never stop learning. But here's the twist. Truly wise people, they don't just keep learning. They know when and how to share what they've learned. Because in the age of information overload, where anyone can Google anything and everyone wants to sound like an expert, what sets you apart isn't how much you know. It's how thoughtfully you use what you know. Let's be real, we've all met someone who constantly drops facts, quotes, or complex ideas just to seem smart. And while that might work for a minute, it often backfires. Why? Because knowledge without wisdom can feel like showing off. And nobody likes a show-off. So here's the habit we're exploring today. Keep learning, but share wisely. This habit isn't about knowing more than everyone else. It's about staying curious, adaptable, and humble, and offering insight in a way that actually serves the moment rather than hijacking it. Let's dive deeper. Lifelong learning keeps your mind sharp, your ideas fresh, and your confidence grounded. It gives you perspective, because the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know. And that realization, that's where humility begins. When you continue to learn, whether through books, podcasts, conversations, travel, or even failure, you become more flexible in your thinking. You don't cling to one idea like it's gospel. You evolve. You adapt. And that evolution is what keeps your intelligence alive and magnetic. But just as important as gaining knowledge is knowing how to share it with grace. So let's talk about wise sharing. Have you ever been in a conversation where someone drops a complex theory or random stat that totally derails the flow? It might be impressive, but it rarely feels connecting. That's because great communication isn't about proving you're smart. It's about making others feel smarter, seen or inspired in your presence. So how do you share your knowledge in a way that builds respect and connection? Here are 3 guiding principles that I've found incredibly useful. Chapter 1. Share to serve, not to impress. Before you speak, ask yourself, is this going to help the conversation or hijack it? If the insight you want to share offers clarity, depth, or support, go for it. But if it's just to prove you read something or sound clever, hold it. 2. Know your moment. Timing matters. The best insights are the ones offered at the right time. Sometimes silence is wiser than speaking. Sometimes asking a thoughtful question is more powerful than giving an answer. Discernment is a muscle. Train it. 3. Speak in stories, not just facts. People remember stories more than data. If you've learned something meaningful, frame it in a way that's relatable. Instead of saying, according to Harvard Business Review, try, I once read something that really shifted how I saw this. It said, same information, different energy. Now let me share something personal. I used to think being the smartest person in the room meant knowing the most. So I'd read like crazy, memorize articles, quote authors all so I could contribute and sound intelligent. But over time, I realized something subtle but huge. The people who made the biggest impression on me weren't the ones who talked the most. They were the ones who knew when to speak. They shared things that landed. They gave me something to think about, not just something to admire. And they often said less, but meant more. That's what wise sharing does. It's not about dominating, it's about elevating the room. So here's your reminder, never stop learning. Feed your mind, stay curious, explore new ideas, challenge your beliefs. But when it's time to speak, do it with precision and purpose. Because when you speak less, but say more, people will start to lean in. They'll remember your words not for their complexity, but for their clarity. And they'll walk away thinking, that person doesn't just know things, that person understands things, and that is the mark of true intelligence. Let's talk about something that might seem superficial at first glance, but actually speaks volumes before you ever say a word. The way you dress. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Shouldn't it be about who I am, not what I wear? And you're absolutely right, in an ideal world. But the reality, people form impressions within the first few seconds of seeing you, often before you even open your mouth. And one of the most powerful cues, they use your appearance. That's why today's subtle but powerful habit is this dress with intention. This doesn't mean you need to wear a three-piece suit to the grocery store or dress like someone you're not. It's about understanding how your clothing choices influence perception, especially when it comes to intelligence, credibility, and confidence. Let me break it down. Yeah, we live in a visually driven world. Visually, and whether we like it or not, our brains are constantly scanning for signals. Is this person trustworthy? Do they look like they know what they're doing? Are they put together? Or do they seem scattered? And the way you present yourself is one of the strongest signals you send. In fact, multiple studies in psychology and social behavior show that people consistently perceive well-dressed individuals as more competent, more intelligent, and more confident, even if they haven't said a word. Why? Because clothing is a form of nonverbal communication. It says, I respect myself, I respect this environment, and I've made an effort to show up. And effort is magnetic. And let me give you a simple example. Imagine walking into a coffee shop to meet someone for the first time. One person shows up in wrinkled sweatpants and flip-flops. The other comes in wearing clean, well-fitted clothes, nothing flashy, just put together. Who do you instinctively feel more inclined to trust, respect, or even listen to? It's not about being judgmental, it's about human psychology. And if you want to project intelligence, intentionality, and professionalism, you want your clothing to match the message. So what does that look like in real life? Here are 3 simple but powerful guidelines to help you dress in a way that elevates you without changing who you are. 1. Dress for the context, not for the crowd. What works at a startup might not work in a courtroom. What works on a hike might feel out of place at a business lunch. When you dress in a way that aligns with the environment you're stepping into, people instantly feel like you belong, and that signals competence. Tip: ask yourself, what's the tone of this space, and how can I reflect that while still feeling like me? 2. Fit matters more than price. You don't need expensive clothes to look smart. You need clothes that fit you well and make you feel confident. An affordable, well-fitted blazer will always beat an overpriced jacket that hangs awkwardly. When your clothes fit, you carry yourself differently, and that changes how people respond to you. 3. Let your style reinforce, not distract. We've all seen outfits so loud or mismatched, they overpower the person wearing them. That's the opposite of intelligent style. Instead, let your outfit support your message, not compete with it. This might mean leaning into clean lines, subtle tones, or accessories that say sharp, not shocking. Let your presence shine, not your patterns. Now, none of this is about image for image's sake. It's about alignment. When your appearance reflects the energy, clarity, and professionalism inside of you, people feel that alignment. And alignment builds trust. It makes your intelligence believable, not just theoretical. Think about the most impactful speakers, mentors, or professionals you've met. Chances are they didn't just have something valuable to say. They looked like they had something valuable to say before they ever said it. That's not luck. That's intention. So here's your takeaway today. You don't need to look like someone else. You just need to look like the sharpest, clearest version of yourself. Dress in a way that supports the message you're trying to send, whether that message is I'm thoughtful, I'm prepared, or I'm here to contribute. Because in the end, it's not about dressing up. It's about showing up fully. And when you do, people take notice. They listen closer. They trust you faster. And they're more likely to walk away thinking that person not only looked smart, they were smart. So let's bring it all together. Looking smarter isn't about changing who you are. It's about fine-tuning how you show up. It's not about faking intelligence, memorizing facts, or speaking louder than everyone else in the room. It's about refining your presence, the quiet cues, the thoughtful pauses, the way you carry yourself, and how you connect. These 7 habits we've explored today, from listening deeply to speaking with clarity, asking better questions, owning your body language, pausing with intention, sharing knowledge wisely, and dressing with purpose. They aren't about putting on a show. They're about alignment, aligning your inner intelligence with your outer expression, letting the world feel your thoughtfulness before they even hear your ideas. And here's the beautiful truth. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room to look smart, sound smart, or lead with wisdom. You just need to be intentional, present, and willing to grow. Because when you embody these small but powerful shifts, you do more than leave a good impression. You open doors. You inspire trust. You earn respect. And you begin to attract new opportunities, not by trying harder, but by showing up more fully as the best version of you. So here's the real challenge I want to leave you with. Which one of these 7 habits are you ready to practice more intentionally this week? Which one speaks to the version of you that's ready to rise? Drop your answer in the comments. I'd love to hear what resonated with you most. And if this video helped shift your perspective, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We've got more insights coming your way because showing up smarter isn't about ego. It's about evolving. And the smartest thing you can do is keep growing.